Well, we're going to get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I am Julie Entwistle. Some of you may know me, and I'm going to introduce my colleague and friend, Michael Messer, in a minute. But I just wanted to welcome everyone to our webinar today on Navigational Conversations in the course that Michael and I will be hosting and running. And we wanted to give you some really great information about this course. Just to introduce myself, for those that don't know me, I am Julie Entwistle. I am an OT here in Ontario. I spent 20 years in the private rehabilitation space with my own company that I sold in 2019 and transitioned from that role to some other leadership roles. And in April of last year, decided to embark on my own again and become a business coach. I'm really enjoying working with other leaders and owners on building their businesses and helping health professionals feel more capable and competent in the business space. So I'm going to pass it over to Michael and let him introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Michael Messer, and I am a Focal Point business coach in Savannah, Georgia. And I actually believe in creating a better world through better business. And I do that through coaching companies that offer goods and services that really are intended to improve people's lives or improve the community at large. In terms of my own professional background, I have over 25 years of experience in corporate, government, and nonprofit spaces, spending the majority of my career actually as a senior executive in financial services. One of the things that's a little unusual about my background, I think, is early in my career, I worked in the area of social impact investing. And I actually use in my coaching practice this experience to help purpose-driven businesses not only to scale their business and their profit, but also scale the impact that they can have on the communities that they serve. So that's just a little bit about me.
Wonderful, thank you. Just to let everyone know, this is recorded because for those people that were interested in joining us and couldn't, we will be sending around the recording of that. We wanted to start our webinar with a short video. This video is one available on YouTube. It's 17 minutes on YouTube, but we've spliced it down to just a couple minutes to highlight some of the benefits of using a coaching conversation and a coaching approach with the people that you're leading and working with, whether you're a leader in the corporate space, whether you're a healthcare professional, whether you're working in academia. Coaching conversations can really elevate the communication we have with others. And we thought that some segments of this video really spoke to that. So Erin, who's helping us out today, is going to share this short video, and then we'll continue to give you some great content about this course.
I don't come to you today as an expert. I come to you as someone who has been really interested in how I get better at what I do and how we all do. I think it's not just how good you are now, I think it's how good you're gonna be that really matters. I was visiting this birth center in the north of India. I was watching the birth attendants, and I realized I was witnessing in them, in extreme form, this very struggle, which is how people improve in the face of complexity or don't. They were not getting better anymore. It's how good you're gonna be that really matters. It presses on a fundamental question. How do professionals get better at what they do? How do they get great? And there are two views about this. One is the traditional pedagogical view. That is that you go to school, you study, you practice, you learn, you graduate, and then you go out into the world and you make your way on your own. A professional is someone who is capable of managing their own improvement. That is the approach that virtually all professionals have learned by. That's how doctors learn, that's how lawyers do, scientists, musicians. And the thing is, it works. What she worked on most, she said, was inculcating in them habits of thinking and of learning so that they could make their way in the world without her when they were done. Now, the contrasting view comes out of sports. And they say, you are never done. Everybody needs a coach. Everyone, the greatest in the world, needs a coach. Turns out there are numerous problems in making it on your own You don't recognize the issues that are standing in your way, or if you do, you don't necessarily know how to fix them. And the result is that somewhere along the way, you stop improving. He was describing what great coaches do. And what they do is they are your external eyes and ears, providing a more accurate picture of your reality. They're recognizing the fundamentals. They're breaking your actions down and then helping you build them back up again.
Thank you, Aaron, for that. I'm going to pass over to Michael now to talk about how the Navigational Conversations content speaks very highly to these coaching conversations and how they can benefit the people you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, I would highly suggest you go and look at the entire 17 minutes of that YouTube because it's really, really powerful and it is about coaching. Navigational Conversations is fundamentally about how to have a coaching conversation in the workplace. It's fundamentally about how you can work with your colleagues, your team members, and even your clients to become the better version of themselves, to start problem solving for themselves, and to increase their own capacity in the work that they do. So I'm now going to talk a little bit about how Navigational Conversations can help you, if you were to take the course, get some skills to start working and unlocking that potential in the individuals that you work with day to day. So here's just a little overview of what you might expect in terms of how the course is structured and what you can expect to get out of it. Well, we kick off the conversation with a discussion of mindset and the foundational principles needed to have a successful coaching conversation in the workplace. The course really facilitates a discussion kind of from the bottom up so that you understand before you even try to have one of these conversations, the rationale and framework behind what a coaching conversation is and what it's about. There's 6 principles that we explore that are the foundation for any type of conversation that is trying to be delivered in a coach-like way. And we do this before we even talk about the model itself and the framework, because understanding and applying these 6 principles are really crucial to achieving a positive and productive outcome. So on the next slide, we talk a little bit related to this is the mindset. So we're talking about the foundations and the mindset here. And the interesting thing about coming into a conversation as a coach is that it involves a completely different mindset than what we've been taught. We have been rewarded going through life as problem solvers. And we have been trained to think of ourselves as being the individuals who need to solve problems for others in order to be successful or to achieve the outcome that we're looking for. The navigational conversation is different. What we're doing is we're challenging the coach in the conversation to empower the person that they're working with to find solutions that are going to address their problem. And it really is from going from kind of a short term, like let's solve this one specific issue, to a longer term view on how can you build the capacity of the individual that you're working with to start problem solving and grow themselves and become a better professional client or colleague in the process. Julie, this is kind of like the first big topic, this mindset and foundations. What do you have to add here?
Yeah, I think it's a really important shift, and that's why we spend quite a bit of time on it, is that especially in the healthcare space, we're used to coming in to be paid for really our opinion of how to help people solve their problems. And when you shift the conversation and you help them to figure out how to solve these problems in a way that is actionable for them, and that's the important piece. There's such a shift in the dynamic of the relationship. And I think this is such a foundational conversation to have at the beginning of understanding why coaching works.
Yes, and frankly, not understanding the foundational aspects of it, you're going to be at a disadvantage. It's going to be like going into a conversation with one arm tied behind your back, because if you enter into these conversations with a different mindset, the conversation can go in a direction that is really not what you're looking to achieve. So after talking about problem solving mindsets, we do talk about and introduce the navigational conversations model itself. So this is a framework that can be used in practically any conversation. And I do mean that, almost any conversation, to help drive the key to help identify the key drivers that are going to lead to your ideal outcome or your desired outcome. So the great thing about this is that this framework, I'm going to use a little bit of hyperbole here, but just having been a professional in this in a while, it almost feels like magic, because once you really understand what this coaching model is and how to use it and get very adept at using it, what it allows you to do is to go into a conversation with someone not knowing anything about the topic and actually help them work through, think through, and find solutions that are going to work for themselves on issues that you have zero experience with. And it's actually really liberating and really amazing to watch those aha moments and the growth that's happening across the table from you when you're engaging this way. Similarly, when you're having a coaching-like conversation, understanding this model and the 5 steps around it helps you to avoid getting lost. You never really know how a conversation is going to play out in the real world, where somebody's coming from. You're going to be getting new information. Understanding and really embracing the model will give you places, touch points to kind of ground the conversation and get back on track if you feel like you need to start redirecting and moving in a more productive way. So it's actually quite powerful. Julie, do you have anything to add?
No, I just, my reaction to this when Michael and I, we trained to facilitate this course together is, I really wish I had this 15 years ago. I think of all the conversations that I had with clients where I could have been so much more helpful at getting them to feel that they do have it within themselves to solve through a lot of these day-to-day problems that they were calling me, emailing me, dealing with during our sessions. And so in the healthcare space, it just resonated so strongly. And I thought, with a passion, I've got to get this, to healthcare professionals. And I know that it has the same power in the leadership space as well, when we're trying to coach other people that work with us on our teams to not, feel that we need to be the source of knowledge on everything. They have so much knowledge within themselves. We just need to activate it.
Yeah, just following on from that, think about how busy you are in your day. Think about all the fires that you put out, right? A lot of times by helping unlock this potential in other people, what you're actually doing for yourself in the process is freeing up time, freeing up space to actually work on more strategic things in your business, get your own things done, because you're not the person that is always supporting the action that needs to be taken to move to your desired outcome. So when you've got your team all thinking this way and starting to problem solve for yourself, it starts solving a lot of problems outside of just how can I make this person, operate more effectively in my organization or as a client or whatever the context may be. So the next 2 topics that we talk about are really related to tools. So there's a couple of tools in the toolbox that we use as coaches that are really important. The first of these tools is a question. So a coaching conversation fundamentally is about providing powerful, thought-provoking questions to the person that you are working with so that they can consider solutions, their own capabilities, and kind of push them into a creative space, a resourceful space for them to start answering and leaning into how to solve the issues that they're confronted with. This really is around not just questioning for information, but it's understanding how to formulate a question, not only to achieve a specific impact, but to how to use it tactically to shift a conversation in ways that are going to be really helpful for the person that you're talking to get where they want to go. So questions, big tool, big focus when we're talking about navigational conversations. Julie, anything to add there?
I just think about the power of this in the healthcare space, and I've witnessed this many, many times in my career where the question can really just change the path of the conversation. You ask somebody, how was your sleep? Versus asking them questions about, were they rested? Did they, what would better sleep look like? Like trying to really activate different types of answers versus really structuring the question around moving the conversation to the next question. And so it really does benefit the trajectory you can take with people when you're trying to understand how to help them move forward.
And there's a second tool that we use in our toolbox, which is conscious listening. Very, very important. So this and questioning are kind of the two critical skills that we focus on within the Navigational Conversations course. We all know what it means to listen, but actually we rarely do it. It's true. Think about the number of times that you're doing something, you're trying to multitask, you're listening, your focus is split across so many different things. When we're talking about listening as part of a coaching conversation, it means it's like next level listening. It's like you are all in, you are fully present, you are totally focused on the other individual and what's going on with them. And it's not listening that's about understanding and gathering information, although that's really part of it, a relatively small part of it. But it's also listening for the things that aren't being said. It's listening for what's happening for the person. It's almost like this totality of being present with another person and very deeply connected when you're listening. Why is this so important? Because part of having a successful coaching conversation is being able to create a strong amount of trust with the person that you're working with. And so listening is the number one way that people can feel heard, people can feel that they're fully expressed, people can start building trust with you and allow you to help them get to a place that they may not have been able to get to on their own without that trust being in place. So super important skill, and it's actually much harder than you might think. Julie, any thoughts?
Yeah, just that we spend a lot of time in this course practicing this, because it is true when you realize the different levels of listening and how it feels to be the recipient of someone who is fully engaged in what you're saying. It's a really powerful shift. And so I really like this part of the course.
Yeah. And the last big sort of section, I would say, is what we call the art of telling. And this is probably one of the most popular parts of the course. Participants really, really like this because it takes everything that we have learned about how to have a trusting, engaged, thoughtful, thought-provoking coaching conversation and how to direct it into giving feedback. This is something that we do all the time. So how can you use these skills to provide positive feedback? Maybe you're having a conversation where you need to give corrective or developmental feedback. Or maybe sometimes you really just have to impart information so that they can receive it and understand what they need to move forward. So here, the important part of the course is there's actually a way to do this so that it lands. You know, just saying, hey, you did a great job, or, you know, that wasn't really great, you know, maybe you should do it differently next time. That approach, although very typical in the workplace today, doesn't always give the person the motivation and the sort of emotional resonance that they need to move into action in a way that's going to be really productive. So in a positive feedback conversation, you want to give positive feedback that really tells them specifically what was great about it and keep doing that thing so they know. Similarly with corrective and developmental feedback, you know, what specifically was problematic about what happened, and how can we start working on that one thing so that it doesn't become a liability or an issue in the future? And how do you have a coaching conversation where you have to impart information because the client or the teammate or whoever just literally doesn't have the information, but how do you provide it in a way that can really be received and acted upon immediately? This is a part of the course that not only is very impactful, I think, for most participants, but it is information that you can immediately take into your life and implement instantly. So it's really fantastic from that perspective. Julie, what else do you have for you?
Yeah, I think we get a lot of questions about this, and a lot of people in the coaching space are coming and saying, you know, how do I provide that hard feedback to someone or have that difficult conversation? And it really talks about how to level through that so that you're balancing the reaction is such an important part of that conversation. And so we talk about how to navigate the reaction and then the different paths to take based on how the feedback lands. And I think that's really, really an important part, because sometimes we go too deep when we didn't need to. Sometimes we miss a coaching opportunity because we include information that didn't really need to be included. And sometimes we don't know how to manage the defensiveness that might come from that. Not everybody can have these conversations, in the moment and have them go very well if they're not in a headspace. And so how do we navigate the reaction to that and try to bring them into a more positive place so that the conversation is helpful for both people? So yeah, it's a really, really great aspect of this course that I think is really resonating with a lot of people in leadership and in the healthcare space. We just wanted to move the conversation from here to talk a little bit about the structure of the course. I will tell you that, through the training Michael and I've had and the people we've talked to and the testimonials on this course, it's really fun. It's really engaging. It's based on adult learning principles. So, it's a lot of great balance between information, practice, and practical skills that are delivered in a way that keeps you really, really interested and moving forward through the content. I love the balance between the foundational concepts, the theory, and the application. I think it really explains why it works, the mindset piece that we talked about, but then also, being able to leave with that practical tool set that you can implement right away. It's not one of those courses you would come to, put the information at the side of your desk and go, I've got to, revisit that. You really do have a changed skill set once the course finishes. I think that these, one thing Michael and I really like about this is when you shift to a coaching conversation, it really creates an opportunity to have really inclusive and culturally safe conversations with people, because you're not imparting your own bias, right? If Michael's going to come to me with a problem and I'm going to start telling him different options of solving that problem, I bring my own bias, my own perspective, my own intersectionality to that conversation. But if I ask Michael questions about that problem for him, then he's able to provide the solutions that come from his perspective, from his own ability to action those possible solutions, for me to get more information about what's appropriate for him from his own unique experiences to try and to do. Michael, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think when I think about this approach to how you talk to anybody that you're intersecting with in the workplace, and it's becoming clear to me that more and more it's not nice to know, but it's almost mandatory. We have people, just like Julie said, particularly around how to have inclusive conversations in a very safe, productive way. It absolutely fills that need, but also it really speaks to, I think, the demands and the desires of the next generation of team members and colleagues and patients and clients that we have, right? More and more, and I'll speak from a corporate perspective here, but employees really are demanding the opportunity to have a voice. They want to express their thoughts and feelings. They want to have a sense of ownership, and the best way of having ownership in something is to be invested in the solution because you were part of that solution. They want to be heard. Going back to the conscious listening topic. So the important thing here is this, I think, satisfies so many of those needs that are emerging and becoming really predominant in our workplace that it is almost mandatory that people start thinking in these ways. And there's a downside, there's a risk to not doing it because, some very interesting studies recently, at least in the corporate space, were looking at turnover. And, 36% of people left their roles because they didn't feel like they were in alignment with what was happening around them in their job or profession. And part of that is not feeling heard, not feeling invested, not feeling like they had an opportunity to express the values that were important to them. And navigational conversations are a way, in a productive way, in a professional way, to allow that into the workplace and harness that in a way that you can all get behind and move towards a common objective. So that's one of the really powerful things about this course for me.
In terms of taking the course, Michael and I are able to offer this in multiple different ways. Right now, we have a 4-hour block times 4 sessions. So the whole content of the course with the practice is 16 hours. That is split really between content and practice pretty equally. So there's a lot of learning and then doing. And so we've got the course scheduled at 4 hours 4 times, but we can also run it as 2 days online. That's a lot to do 8 hours over 2 days, but that's also an option. And we can also break it down into 2-hour chunks over a longer period of time as well. We're also capable of customizing elements of the course if people just really have specific aspects that are important for them in their role. So think about that when you're, if you have questions for us around the flexibility. And I think really just wanting to leverage what your main objectives are. And so these are questions we can put out to you after the fact. Michael, anything else you want to add?
Learning by doing. There's a lot of practice here. A lot of these skills are not skills that, again, come to us easily day to day. And it really is about creating awareness, helping you in a structured way practice and exercise these skills where you can receive feedback. There's going to be spaces between the sessions so you can go out into the world and then practice them and then come back and meet with us. How did it go? Continue to practice and how. And so, it's very intentional in a way of getting you both the awareness and the action together to create a strong coaching habit. So I think it's very effective and again, necessary for today's workplace.
I agree. Excellent. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions. And like I said, people know how to find us. We will send up a follow-up email with a recording for anyone who maybe registered and wasn't able to attend, or if you have any questions, you can respond to that. So thank you everyone for joining us today and for hearing what we have to say about this course. And we'll look forward to continuing to roll this out.
Great. Thank you.
And thanks, Aaron, for your help. Have a great day, everybody.